Alright, we're going to practice reading a histogram, and by doing that, we'll get familiar with how they work, how to interpret data using them, what they show you, what they're good for, etc. So I got this silly example that I think is kind of fun, and that's that's this. So let's see, it's a thought experiment here. Suppose I were to poll one of my favorite classes of students, and I were to ask, guys and gals, how much time per day do you spend discovering elegant truths about the universe? You know, looking through a telescope, a microscope, reading books about science, doing math problems, figuring out what it all means. How much time per day do you spend? And and all my students were to just estimate, and I would get all kinds of answers. Maybe one person would say 7.5 hours, one person would say half an hour, one person would say 12 minutes, another person would say 5 hours and 15 minutes per day. And I'd take all those values, and in creating the histogram, I would sort those values out into different ranges or bins, also known as buckets. And it's literally, you can think of it like taking a big pile of numbers and sorting them out into different buckets. That makes sense. So what we've got here, here's our histogram, and grab a color that'll be, I guess orange. Let's try orange. Okay, and what it's showing is here's the title of the histogram: time spent per day discovering elegant truths about the universe. On the y-axis, I've got frequency, and this is just showing how often data falls into each of the ranges. So frequency, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would mean 5 data points fall within a certain range. In this case, each data point would represent the amount of time a student spends per day discovering elegant truths about the universe. So this is frequency, and then on my x-axis, I've got the ranges that I'm looking at. Actually, let me switch colors. Let's do something like that. And this is hours per day, so 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, and then uh, these are not just discrete values like 1, 2, 3, but they're ranges. So this is a bin or a bucket that represents everything between 0 and 1 hour per day. This is everything between 1 and 2 hours per day. Um, this and this represents everything between 2 and 3 hours spent discovering elegant truths about the universe per day. Okay, so let's interpret this, etc. Um, so what do we know? What does this tell us? Well, okay, so let's look at this first bin. So that's looking at the x-axis here. That's everything, every data point that falls in the range of 0 to 1 hour per day. What's the frequency? Um, 3. 3. See how that goes straight across to the 3. So we would interpret that and say 3 students spend anywhere between 0 and 1 hours per day discovering elegant truths about the universe. Well, let's look at this bin here. Actually, let's switch colors yet again. Um, let's see. I guess I'll go back to red. So that bin represents the range of 1 to 2 hours per day. How many students fall into that range? 4. So there's 4 students. We don't know exactly how much time per day they spend discovering elegant truths about the universe, but we know that the time they spend is between 1 and 2 hours per day, and 4 students fall into that range that spend between 1 and 2 hours per day. Here we've got a bin that's empty. So this range between 2 and 3 hours per day is empty. No students spend that amount of time. It's either less or more. Um, and that's why it's important to not show gaps. With a bar chart, which looks similar, you'll see gaps between the bars, and that's okay for a bar chart. But with a histogram, gaps mean something. What this gap means is that for this range, there's no values. This tells us something. So no students spend between 2 and 3 hours per day discovering elegant truths about the universe. Why? I don't know. I guess maybe they're either really busy doing other things, so they spend less than that, or if they're gonna they're going to go for it. They're going to go for it. They're going to spend a lot more time. Um, Here, this is the highest um, bar here, which means that this range of 3 to 4 hours per day is the most frequently occurring range. So the data most often um, it falls into that range. So the highest number of students spend between 3 and 4 hours per day discovering elegant truths about the universe, and that's 8 students. Um, so for any given range here on this histogram, um, that's the one that into which most students fall. So 8 students spend between 3 and 4 hours per day discovering elegant truths about the universe. Now here I've got a bin that's pretty wide. So this bin represents a span of time that's not 1 hour like these other ranges or bins, but actually 2 hours. This is the range that represents everything from 4 to 6 hours per day spent discovering elegant truths about the universe. So, and that's why it's twice as wide as the other bins. Because the width of the bins is proportional to the size of the range. So, this is a wider bin. So so there's more data points that could fit into this range. And so the frequency is 6. So the data fall into this range 6 times, which means 6 students spend between 4 and 6 hours per day discovering elegant truths about the universe. And then there's 2 more bins to consider, and I'll let you handle that. So this is the basic idea of ranges of values of the data, and then showing how often the data fall into those ranges. So you can look at a glance. All right, this is the least frequently occurring range of values. Nobody spends between 2 and 3 hours. Here's the most frequently occurring range of values. The highest number of students spend between 3 and 4 hours per day discovering elegant truths about the universe.